My friends, today's video is about healing and mind over matter. So one of the most common questions I get asked is how did you heal yourself, Damien? So I just wanted to break down the science of how mind and emotion changes our actual genetic expression and the health of the body. So some of you know I had critical injuries and a high-speed car accident that led to breaking my spine in 6 places, a week in a coma, and over 40 titanium pieces put into my face, critical brain hemorrhaging, and a whole host of other injuries. And when I came out of that coma, I knew that if any limitation or any diagnosis from an expert entered into my thinking, entered into my state of consciousness, then I knew I couldn't heal. So I was basically deaf. I was deaf, dumb, and blind to all the experts talking about what I was capable of doing. It's my body, and we are the healers. We are the placebo. So we've got to understand that there is an intelligence in the body that is giving life to the body. And since you started watching this video, it's already given birth to 25 trillion brand new cells for you. It's been regulating your cardiovascular system, your digestive system, your immune system, all beyond your conscious awareness. You don't ask it to do any of this for you. You don't sit there and say, heart, pump blood, immune system, keep me safe. Okay, there is an intelligence in this body that transcends thought, and this intelligence lives in the autonomic nervous system, which is part of your subconscious mind. And this intelligence is infinitely greater than any doctor, any expert, any published paper out there in the world. It's giving life to you and sustaining you. And what I knew was that I would be able to impress my belief or impress my conscious intention on this intelligence from my conscious thinking mind, from my intention into the subconscious, and would be healed. And I knew that all I needed was love and gratitude and hope. And that no matter what, as long as I never let go of love, gratitude, and hope, it would come to pass. And that's what's happened for me. So now I've just got a moral obligation to share and give something back and to teach. So we've got to understand that every thought, every state of consciousness, all of those, just automatic streams of consciousness that go running through your brain on a daily basis, they are changing you neurologically, biochemically, and genetically. Every thought, every state of mind turns into matter in the body. Think an angry thought right now. Reflect on the past and get that anger bubble up inside you. And you have just changed the anatomical, biochemical structure of your physical body from the immaterial world of thought. So mind over matter, mind in neuroscience is your brain doing work. It's consciousness moving and swimming through neurological structures in your brain. Okay, the immaterial world of consciousness then animates the physical structure known as the brain, creating mind that then changes matter in our body. So now let's talk about genes. Less than 2% of humanity are born with an actual genetic defect. The rest of us who acquire some sort of issue or disease, we get it through what's known as epigenetic mechanisms, epigenetic changes. So the new biology of epigenetics shows us that we're not victims of our genes. Far less than 2% of humanity have an actual genetic birth defect that when that gene is expressed, it will create a misfunctioning protein. That basically genes are a code, it's a blueprint that makes proteins. Our bodies are protein building factories, and the expression of life is the movement, the moving shape of proteins in our body. This is what is required for the structure, so the physical structure and the function of every one of the 70 trillion cells that make up your body, that make up the organs and the systems that make up the being known as you. But genes change, genes fluctuate, and they ebb and they flow, because we have this perception that DNA controls itself, that genes can just turn themselves on, and we have no say in it. But that's not the actual truth. Your genetic material is actually protected. It's covered by a sheath. And until that sheath is pulled back, or like a banana peel opened up, until it's unzipped, the gene can't be read and expressed to make a protein. So your genes aren't self-actualizing. And epigenetics, epi meaning above the gene, is the science of environmental factors, things outside of the cell, changing the genetic expression within the cell. And this includes your every thought, choice, action, belief, and emotion. Because for the cells in your body, the environment outside of the cell is being affected by these messengers. Okay, these messengers. And the technical term is called a neuropeptide. So as you think thoughts and you go about your day, the brain's producing neurotransmitters to create that state of consciousness. But at the same time, it's producing these neuropeptides that signal. Okay, these are just a message being sent, like you're sending a text message to one of your friends or a DM. And this message travels to the cell, it docks with the cell wall, the membrane of the cell. It then either creates or changes a protein, travels to the nucleus of the cell, and it finds the piece of genetic material that it was coded for. It then unzips, like we talked about before, it unwraps that package, it unwraps that banana from the banana peel so that a gene can be read and a protein is then built. A gene is expressed and it makes or codes for a protein. And as we said before, proteins are required for the structure and function of every piece of your body. And the word protein originates from the Greek word protas, and it means of primary importance. As Dr. Bruce Lipton points out, when we're looking at a dead body is sitting there, but it's not expressing life. So it has all the proteins, but there's no movement. There's no moving shape of these proteins within the body for all the systems of the body, digestion, respiration, etc., etc. So your DNA, your genes are literally protein building factories. And that blueprint stays the same, but the expression of your genes changes constantly with who you're being, your personality, your choices each day, your sexual habits, whether or not you live in a built-up city with a lot of pollution, radiation coming from the sun. All of these environmental factors are changing your genes. And there's many scientific studies that are peer-reviewed and published, and they show that by people changing their state of consciousness, changing a belief, changing the way they think, they can change the human genome. In some of these studies, they have changed over 1/3 of the human genome in a few short weeks. Okay, so when it comes to healing, the most important thing that I ever did was I never lost that belief. I knew I had to stay in a state of appreciation and love for life and not move into the fear. Because when the average person goes to a doctor and gets a diagnosis, the stress and that emotional charge of the doctor saying never it moves us out of homeostasis. It moves us into the fight or flight nervous system. And in the stress response, the body starts to shut down. The epigenetic expressions that we need for healing and health and immune system modulation, they go bye-bye. They stop functioning. They downregulate. And we start upregulating genes that are responsible for inflammation and other nasty things in the body. And we then form an identity out of I'm a sufferer of so-and-so injury, so-and-so disease. And we'll repeat it, we'll rehearse it, we'll talk to our friends about it, and we'll auto-suggest this we'll auto-suggest this limitation to ourselves again and again and again, and the body breaks down. We actually circumnavigate our own ability to heal from that suggestion from the expert, from the doctor. We're very suggestible when we go and see a doctor. So the most crucial things we have are that science says that our genes are changing constantly, that our state of consciousness determines our state of health, and that holding on to stress and fear is completely debilitating and knocks the body out of balance. Okay, it turns on the genes that we do not want to be turned on in the stress response. So that's how it works, okay? That's how belief becomes biology in our body. We've been miseducated and led astray by a medical system that is still floundering in science that is decades and decades and decades old, and it is disempowering human beings. So that's today's video, okay? Mind controls matter, belief controls biology. We are the placebo. We are the healers. If you can just take an empty tablet and be healed, then what's doing the healing? There's even studies now where people know they're taking the placebo. The bottle says in big writing, placebo. But they made these test subjects suggestible by saying, we're going to give you nothing, but we found that by giving you nothing, you'll get better. And just that suggestion was enough for them to believe in something different, hope in a different future. And in some of these studies, they've performed as well as the #1 selling drug on the market right now. So I recommend you get educated. This, for me now, is more than 15 years of research into neuroscience and biology and the immune system and psychology and all sorts of stuff. So once you know how your body functions, it takes the fear out of it. Because remember, a fear-based mindset and fear-based medicine can make us sick. Okay, it can actually make us sick. And toxic emotions like anger and fear and guilt and shame, blaming other people, these can harm us. Limited emotions can cause disease in the body. It's scientifically proven. So that's today's video. If you guys want to find out more, you can read my book, Limitless Reconnecting with the Infinite Power Within, or else just start educating yourself. You can reach out to me, damienhorton.com, if you're interested in one-on-one mindset coaching. And that's today's video. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe, share the content with someone who needs to hear this message. Because you're right now listening to a man that had critical hemorrhaging. And I broke my spine in 6 places and was told I'd be permanently disabled. And there was such severe damage to my frontal lobes, my temporal lobes. I had bilateral skull fractures and over a week in a coma. And I was walking 5 days later. And I've cured myself. I've healed myself. So if I can do it, you guys can too. All right? So that's it. Much love. Peace.